with the firefighters literally putting their lives on the line, the law enforcement working 24 hours.
The Los Angeles Arsonists.
They're not going to get away with it.
The evacuation zone looters.
The question is not if, but when you will be caught if you engage in these crimes.
The plans to prosecute.
Announced today the charges being filed on 10 different individuals.
To the fullest extent of the law. They just want people held accountable.
He is looking at life in prison.
We've got a full, in-depth sit-down interview with new LA DA Nathan Hochman and Sheriff Robert Luna, diving deeper into what drives justice in America. That's tonight on Dr. Phil Primetime. Tonight, we've got two incredible public servants who are stepping up when Los Angeles needs leadership the most. LA's new District Attorney, Nathan Hochman, and Sheriff Robert Luna. With the devastating Palisades fire burning between 17,000 and 23,000 acres, depending on how it's measured, and becoming the most destructive wildfire in LA history, these two are sitting on the sidelines. They're out there protecting our communities, cracking down on criminals who dare take advantage of this tragedy through looting and arson. This team recently announced charges, and we're going to talk about that tonight. But first, let's meet District Attorney Nathan Hochman. Mr. DA, how are you, sir?
I'm well. Thank you for asking.
Thank you for everything you're doing. It's good to talk to you again. When we last talked, neither of us had any idea what was just around the corner. This has been a shocking and devastating development. Is it getting under control at all in terms of the fires from what you're hearing?
So I am hearing that even though there are certain winds, we're suffering from a red flag warning right now, that the winds are directed to other parts of the county and other counties, and less so in Pacific Palisades and the Eden, Pasadena, Altadena area, where those fires have literally ravaged tens of thousands of acres. You know, it's interesting, I'm part of the over 200,000 people who have been evacuated, myself and my family, for over a week. My sister had a house in Pacific Palisades that she lived in with her 4 boys and her husband, and that house has been burned down to the ground along with hundreds of neighbors' houses. It is about as close to an apocalyptic vision as you could have seen. And it just emphasizes all the more why the people who are trying to take advantage of people in their lowest hours and most hours of need are despicable. And we are going to make sure that they get arrested for any crimes that they commit, they get prosecuted, and we seek maximum punishment for each and every one of them.
Well, I can't tell you how much that's music to my ears, Mr. DA, because I don't think that's always been the case in LA. You and I have talked about that before, and it's so refreshing to hear that law and order approach to this. And I just have to take a moment to say sometimes people forget that people like yourself who are out there fighting for all the rest of the citizens are people too, and I'm sorry that your sister's lost her house and that you're evacuated and still putting in around-the-clock efforts. So thank you for your sacrifice and doing this for everybody else. Let me ask you, we've got over 200,000 people that have been evacuated, as you say, including yourself. We are seeing looting. We're seeing people that are dressing up as first responders and that sort of thing. How are these people being caught? Are they being caught in the residences? Are they being caught on the streets? How are they being screened for, and how are they being apprehended?
By every means possible. Sometimes we've had situations where they've driven into these evacuation zones, been confronted by law enforcement. We have a situation that you'll hear about the charges shortly, where people were impersonating firefighters, wearing firefighters' outfits, and when confronted by law enforcement, obviously their stories didn't hold up, and they were arrested. As far as the looters go, we've so far charged 9 different looters. Three of them, for instance, went into a Pacific Palisades home, were caught on a Ring camera. Thereafter, through very quick investigation and following up on leads, they tracked them down to an apartment building in Koreatown, about 10 to 15 miles away. They surveilled them and they waited till they left. They were actually all apprehended. In fact, one that tried to escape crashed into another car, got charged with felony hit and run. And eventually they found some of the stolen merchandise on them. Turns out that two of those people are now three-strike offenders, and they are actually looking at the maximum sentence of life in prison for their crime. Another individual was a second striker. He's looking at 22 years for his crime. So the punishments, the maximum punishments will be very severe for these crimes. And we are trying to do our best to send that warning shot out to all those would-be criminals that this is not the time you want to engage in criminal conduct. And if you do, justice will be swift and it will be significant.
Well, let me tell you, that's something that I really want to amplify here because I can tell you, I know so many people that are among those that are evacuated. My house is kind of on the cusp of this. One of my sons is on the cusp, the other's in Calabasas, and so we're all watching the winds to see what happens. But I've talked to people that are evacuated, and one of their frustrations is, look, we want to go in and protect our home against the fire and against looters and that sort of thing, and we can't get in. And our experience has been that if somebody's arrested, if somebody's in there trying to loot or whatever, they'll be out before the officers have the paperwork filled out. That's been our experience over the last several years in LA. And what I've been saying to those that are voicing this to me is that's not the case anymore. Since Nathan Hochman has taken over, they're not walking out the door before they can get the paperwork filled out. You're going to prosecute these people. You're going to take it to the full extent of the law. They need to know that and rest assured that there are consequences to these people that are doing this.
Absolutely. In fact, working with the sheriff, who I know you'll have on your show coming up, and the chief of police of LAPD, Jim McDonald, they are no longer citing and releasing people who are committing these type of crimes. They're all getting booked, and where appropriate, they're then being brought before a magistrate. Real bail is being set in these situations so they don't get back on the street. And again, sadly, in these type of situations where so many are suffering, there are those few people in our society that look at this as the opportunity to profit. And those are the people that we are sending this very strong message to, that if you want to go ahead and do this, we're going to catch you and throw the whole book at you.
Yeah, and you've been careful to say that charges are not evidence, but these people are going to get their due process, but they are going to be prosecuted, and this evidence is going to be brought to bear. And if they're convicted, they're going down for this crime. They're not going to be pled out. They're going to go down for this crime, and they're going to do serious time for this. That's the message.
That is the message. Because it's a message not only for those individuals who've committed these crimes, but again, for the ones that are even thinking about it. Very often these criminals do a cost-benefit analysis. What we're doing is we're going to increase the cost through the roof. So if they think that this is a free pickings to go ahead and go into houses that have been evacuated, thinking that they won't be caught, thinking that the police, even if they do catch them, will only give them a slap on the wrist, they have something they're about to learn differently. And we are sending that message out each and every day because, again, the people who have cooperated in these evacuations are putting their trust in law enforcement, that law enforcement will keep their houses safe. Part of the reason they imposed a curfew here in Los Angeles County on these fire-ravaged areas from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. is precisely to keep people safe and their houses from being broken into, so that if anyone is in these areas who shouldn't be there, so that other than firefighters, law enforcement officials, and disaster relief people, nobody else should be there. The police have already said, and they say it unequivocally, you will be arrested. And they've had to arrest people. Obviously, if residents have tried to get in, they try to work with the residents. But even residents have to understand These curfews are being done for the community's good. These fires, as you know, can turn in a moment's notice and start surging down canyons and areas that you think are otherwise safe. And then all of a sudden you got to get these people out who have violated the curfew. In addition, it takes law enforcement extra efforts to figure out if you're a resident or not a resident. And sadly, there's people who are impersonating residents trying to get into these areas. So for that reason, they've instituted this curfew. It's difficult. I would love to get back to my house, and hopefully when I get back there, everything is in order.
Right.
But I'm willing to sort of sacrifice my personal interest in getting back to my house for the community's good. And so many people are as well, and they have my forever appreciation and admiration, as do the firefighters and the law enforcement officers who are working around the clock.
Poor sleep impacts productivity, focus, and energy, making it difficult to tackle daily tasks effectively. Tossing and turning through the night leaves many feeling drained and unmotivated. Beam's Dream Powder offers a solution. This science-backed healthy nighttime blend is clinically shown to improve sleep, helping users fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and wake up refreshed without grogginess. Dream combines powerful, all-natural ingredients like reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin, creating a blend designed for consistent, restful nights. It has become an essential part of nightly routines for those seeking better sleep. The ultimate sleep refresh for the new year. Try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder and get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/Dr. Phil and use code Dr. Phil at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Dr. Phil and use code Dr. Phil for up to 40% off. As a general number, how many are we talking about that have been arrested for looting and burglary? That type thing right now. What's your estimate?
The estimate's somewhere between 50 and 70 people have been arrested. Mm-hmm. Charges have been brought so far against 9, but we have dozens of people in our pipeline that I estimate that over the next week to 2 weeks, you're going to see again dozens more prosecutions being brought.
Yeah, and as we've gone down through these sets of charges, some of these, as you said, some of them are second and third strikers, and these are some bad actors, violent crimes, hit and run, serious bodily injury, and like third strikers, if convicted, these people could go for life, correct?
They absolutely can. I mean, these are the type of people who didn't learn from committing a first strike, a violent or serious offense, didn't learn from the second strike. Now they're teed up for a third strike. So again, this is the consequence, particularly of committing these crimes at this time, that if you already have 2 strikes, this will be your third strike, and you are looking at a maximum of life in prison.
Now, we have had there's a lot of theories going around about this, about arson being behind some of these fires, and there have been some arson arrests made, and some of them on video. Is that correct?
So the arson arrests that have occurred, and some of them we prosecuted one of them. They haven't touched the main fires. These are the one we prosecuted in the city of Azusa, where there's an individual who was at a park. He lit some brush on fire. He lit a Christmas tree on fire. He got arrested. Actually, residents worked incredibly quickly with law enforcement to bring this individual to their attention, and he got arrested. Right now, there's a Los Angeles regional task force that has been formed that the ATF is leading to determine the cause of origin of all the major fires. They brought in some of their specialists from across the nation who focus on this cause and origin type of analysis. Unfortunately, the firefighters right now are still trying to put the fires out. Law enforcement is still trying to bring stability to the area. So this task force, while it will get to the end of the analysis as soon as they can, this might take weeks or months before they get access to the area, access to witnesses, and can do the forensic analysis they have to do.
Right. And there's when we talk about the looting, is this an organized thing? Do we have a bunch of freelance bad actors out there? Is this coming from gangs? What do we know about this?
It's all of the above. For instance, in the one of the cases that we charged, it involved gang members. We understand that gangs have actually perpetrated a number of these different lootings, but there's also the free actors. I mean, 2 other sets of charges that we brought involving the Eden fire were not gang members. They were individuals without criminal records who viewed this as their opportunity to cash in on people's tragedies. Unfortunately for them, they got caught, as we are going to catch all these folks. They then were arrested, and now they're each looking at 6 to 9 years in prison.
Yeah. What gangs are involved in this?
These are gangs from different parts of Los Angeles that unfortunately, again, view this as an opportunity to profit. Their actions are despicable, and we are we are sending that message that you have picked a really bad time to go ahead and commit crime and take advantage of people in their lowest moments. Right now, law enforcement is an all hands on deck level of operation. So there are more law enforcement officers out there in the streets than during normal times. In fact, I've been told that many detectives have put on uniforms to get out there in the streets to keep us safe. So to the extent that the criminal element views this as an opportunity, they're about to get hit with the full fury of justice to stop them.
Well, there's a lot of speculation online that Tren de Agua is involved in some of this organized approach. Is that true?
That is still under investigation. We don't know that one way or the other.
Uh-huh. These detectives putting on uniforms, it seems to me like a show of force like that is a really good idea. Is that something that you support? It seems like it would suppress activity with a lot of uniforms.
Absolutely. I think that the show of force, to do it so early on, both suppresses criminal activity and also gives the reassurance to the public and the people who evacuated their homes. We're talking hundreds of thousands of people, that law enforcement is there. They brought in 400 members of the National Guard. I'm told there's another 200 on the way. And when you see a National Guardsman, with a automatic rifle in full military attire, standing guard effectively at intersections, it gives the public an additional degree of security and comfort that people are watching out for them. And again, supplemented by the full ranks of law enforcement, that is the message we're also sending to the public.
Well, Nathan, I know you have an awful lot of training and exposure at the state and federal level. What is your sense of how long it will take to get some semblance of normality back to life in LA once these fires are contained, put out? Are we looking at a year, 2 years, 5-year dig out? What are we looking at in Los Angeles to get back to some semblance of normalcy?
So in the areas that have been hit with the fire damage, I've got to tell you, Phil, that it's apocalyptic. I went to my sister's house on the day after the fires hit her house. And her house, which was a beautiful 2-story house that she had been in for 15 years, was burnt to a cinder. The only things left were literally a washing machine and a stone wall, and everything else was gone. And then I did a 360 look from her house, and what used to be hundreds of houses that you could see in Pacific Palisades, there were 2 left standing. I mean, it's going to take an incredible effort to rebuild these parts of Los Angeles County, but I'll tell you that I was there 30 years ago when LA got hit with the fires, the floods, the earthquake, and the riots. And back then they said, look, LA is done. It's no longer going to be one of the best cities in America. And sure enough, LA showed grit, it showed resilience, it rebuilt better than ever. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen. And yes, it's going to take months or years to rebuild these parts of the community, but the community spirit has never been stronger. Aside from the criminal element, which quite candidly disgusts me, the silver lining is that people who live next to each other in adjoining communities are showing up in droves. The donations, the volunteering, the services, the phone calls, the texts, the emails to show their support for people who have suffered. I've never seen anything like that in LA either. So I think LA, while it has its work cut out for it, it will absolutely rebuild and be better than ever.
Well, that's the sense I'm getting as well. How are things working interagency-wise? For example, how's your working relationship with Mayor Karen Bass?
Even though there's been these distractions on the political front, I must tell you the day-to-day work to deal with this crisis has been as seamless as I could have hoped for between county government and the 88 cities that are out there, including some of the major cities that have fire damage, working with the LA Sheriff's Department as well as the LAPD and the local law enforcement, working with the federal government, the state government, and again, local governments. That type of cooperation you usually just read about, but you don't see in action. I've had a front row seat over the last week to see that cooperation in action. And it really is the way government should function. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes a crisis to get the government to function at this efficient level to get stuff done. But we're there. And I'm telling you that so far in this last week, the government that I've been part of in and out of my life for the last 34 years is functioning in LA better in the last week than it probably has functioned in a very long time.
I don't believe in accidents, and I don't think it's any accident that LA got you in this office when they did, and we are very fortunate to have you in that role. So thank you very much for what you're doing and the leadership you're providing. It's at a critical time, and you're the right man in the right job. So D. Hochman, thank you for your time tonight, and I appreciate you so much for taking the time to talk to us, because I think people in Los Angeles and around the country need to hear this conversation. So I appreciate you taking time to do it.
Well, thank you very much. And I hope your family and all your friends that are in LA County stay very safe. We're not out of this mess yet, but we will be. And again, I look forward to seeing you back here in Los Angeles. And we can tour these areas, and I can show you that spirit of community that I've been talking about.
Well, I look forward to it. So thank you very much. I'll see you soon.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. You can watch my in-depth interview with the district attorney next Tuesday, January 21st, right here on Merit TV. I asked him about the Menendez brothers and how he's going to handle President Trump's mass deportation in his sanctuary city. You won't want to miss that. When we come back, we'll talk to Sheriff Robert Luna. A lot more arrests were made last night. If you're worried about IRS collection tactics, you don't have to face them alone. Tax Network USA is here to help. Tax Network USA is the nation's premier tax relief firm and has negotiated over $1 billion in tax relief for clients. Our services include penalty forgiveness, hardship programs where you might not have to repay anything until your tax debt expires, and offer in compromise solutions for lump sum settlements. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, our experts are ready to assist you. Even if you're behind on taxes due to missing personal or business records, Tax Network USA can guide you through the process. Tax season is long over, and for the IRS, that means it's collection season. To schedule complimentary consultation, call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Dr. Phil. Don't let the IRS's aggressive tactics control your life. Take charge of your financial future. Visit tnusa.com/Dr. Phil today. In total, there have been at least 87 arrests made in connection with the wildfires. These arrests include various offenses such as looting, burglary, curfew violations, drug possession, arson, impersonation of a firefighter. Clearly, Sheriff Robert Luna and his team have been tackling this fire crisis head on. Sheriff Robert Luna joins me now. Sheriff, thank you so much for taking time to talk.
Yeah, Dr. Phil, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Well, I think it's important that people in these affected areas and really around the country hear from you and hear that you guys are so on top of this. And I have to tell you that I know so many people that have lost their homes and or have evacuated that are so appreciative of the presence that the sheriff's office have in these areas and the fact that they're responding to these bad actors trying to get into their homes and that sort of thing. They know, of course, that I'm very strong supporter of law enforcement, so they're coming up to me and saying, hey, Sheriff Luna and his people are doing a great job. So I just need to tell you, it is being noticed and you are being appreciated.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your specific support for law enforcement, but in a sense, I'm sitting here representing my men and women.
Yes.
They're out there. They are doing amazing work. They are working, many of them without days off, many of them working extended shifts away from their families. So I can't thank them enough for being out there. And it's not only LA County sheriffs. Like you said, we have a plan. From a day into this, I ended up calling in for mutual aid. The state of California has been amazing. Even as this situation was escalating, I was getting calls from the Office of Emergency Services. What do you need? Calls from the commissioner at the California Highway Patrol. What do you need? The governor, same thing. I'm so grateful for all the assistance. And this is how we're able to translate it to make sure we're supporting our community and we're making them feel like, one, that we're here with them. We're going to support them in any which way we can. And we're doing a good job, I think, of also making sure that they feel that their property's protected.
Well, I think that message is getting out there. And let's face it, when you're dealing with these criminals, we're talking the scum of the earth. These are the bottom of the barrel, people that come in and victimize people that are losing their home, they're out of their homes, and they're trying to get in there and rob their houses and that sort of thing. So your officers know when they're approaching some of these people in these areas where they're not supposed to be, that they're dealing with bad actors from the jump, or they wouldn't be there to begin with.
Yeah, and that's why from the very beginning, we got the support of our Board of Supervisors, County Council, the Office of Emergency Management for the County of Los Angeles, and we enacted a curfew. And I made sure that Jim McDonald, my partner at the Los Angeles Police Department, was on board, and other law enforcement agencies. So we enacted this curfew that is really helping us a lot. It's from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. But what also helps us is the impacts in the areas that we evacuated. And remember, there's a difference between an evacuation order and a warning. These specific areas I'm talking about are evacuation orders. Right. And what we have as well is during the day, if we warn somebody and they have no business being there, and we can actually arrest them for violating that order as well. So a lot of good work. Our deputies, again, are doing really good work. For the LA County Sheriff's Department, we have made a total of 39 arrests. About 14 of those have actually been for burglary. A lot of our arrests, I got to say, are our deputies doing very good proactive work. They're coming across individuals. They're making arrests for possession of narcotics, possession of concealed weapons. These are individuals that do not live in the impacted area. They have no business being in the impacted area. They live nowhere close to it, as a matter of fact. So yes, I'm talking about 39 arrests, but our deputies are making countless stops, both in the order areas, the warning areas. So I believe that they're dissuading and preventing a lot of other crimes from occurring.
I think that show of force is so important, and this message getting out will deter people from getting in where they don't belong. And it's got to feel good to know that these arrests will actually be prosecuted and something will happen to these people instead of them just going in the door and right back out. They'll actually be prosecuted by this district attorney and pay a price for this bad action.
Yeah, I'm very content with my relationship with DA Nathan Hochman. He's been really good from the very beginning. He called me immediately and said, hey, please know that if you bring me any cases, let your deputies know that I will do everything I can to prosecute them. That's a very positive message for our men and women on the front lines who put their lives in danger every day protecting our community members. But it hasn't just been our district attorney, although I think he's doing a very good job. I've communicated with the state attorney general, and he's pledged his support. And then I've also received calls from the U.S. attorney here in Los Angeles, and all of them are eager to prosecute anybody who's not just involved in burglary and looting, but they're also very anxious to get their hands on anybody who is scamming our community members. Because as you know, every time there's a disaster, you have individuals who think they're going to take advantage of folks by whether they're scams, all kinds of crazy things that happen that are just, they make you sick to your stomach. And then the other issue is flying drones in these impacted areas. We actually had a drone hit one of the fire airplanes that was dropping water. And the minute that happened, guess what? All the aircraft had to be grounded. Yeah. That had a significant impact on fire operations. So we've made several arrests for drone usage in these areas where they're not supposed to be flying them. So it's a full-time job, but we're working collectively with our partners, and Nathan Hochman is one of them. And him and I are communicating on a constant basis. And I heard him on your show. He's taken that approach, and our deputies appreciate it.
Well, absolutely. And, Sheriff, listen, take care of yourself. And I know how you take care of the men and women in uniform under you. It's tough on them. I know a lot of them are impacted by it as well, so they don't even have time to check on their own homes and their own situations because they're busy taking care of others. And just let them know that we all appreciate that and know that we appreciate you. And thanks for sharing this message with all of our viewers here at Merit TV. And I look forward to seeing you very soon. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Phil. And just a quick shout out to all other families that are at home and they're trying to take care of everything at home while our men and women are at work. So shout out to the law enforcement families.
You betcha. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we'll meet a man who says complete strangers helped him save his home. Well, community isn't just about living next door. It's about having each other's back when the chips are down. And Altadena resident and my very good friend, Hunt Turner, says his story is proof that when disaster strikes, ordinary people can do extraordinary things. And Hunt, thank you so much for taking time to get on here and talk to me.
Thanks for having us. I'm glad to be a representative of our community.
Well, and what a community it is, too. You guys have been hit. You live in Altadena, and you guys have been hit really hard by these LA fires. And you were evacuated on last Tuesday night, right? About 9 o'clock at night. How much warning did you have?
We had, they gave you a warning system to let you know that there was pending issues, and then they give you about a 30-minute pre-warning, and then you get the call to immediately evacuate. So not quite enough time to get everything, but enough to prepare a little bit.
Yeah, and so you went to a friend's house, and then you came back. You were gone during the night, right? And came
Correct.
back.
We had a sleepless night listening to the LA fire scanner, trying to hear where the resources are being deployed to find out how our community was going to be, the next morning. It was a tough night for all of us.
Oh man, I can just imagine. And when you got back on your street the next morning at 7 a.m., what did you find? What did you see?
Yeah, we were shocked to see the devastation as we were driving up to our community, to see the houses damaged, house is on fire, and then immediately shocked when we pulled into our driveway to see the 4 houses directly in front of us engulfed in flames. And it was just shocking and just made us kick into another level of action.
Just right across the street from you. We're seeing pictures now of the houses right across the street from you. And that's got to be like just shocking. Because the last time you saw them, they're just your neighbors' houses across there, and now they're just engulfed in flames. So you guys went into immediate action. Everybody did. What did you start doing?
Yeah, we unfortunately had low pressure on our hoses, so we were trying to do what we can with those. One of our neighbors across the street's house was still standing, so we were trying to douse the fire that was going while throwing water on the roof and other parts of the house that was still standing. I fortunately have a pool, and so we started what we call the bucket brigade, where all the neighbors and friends who were there at the time started grabbing buckets, carrying water across the street and dousing the flames as much as we can, just to try to keep things under control. It was pretty intense for a long time.
Well, it sounds like Little House on the Prairie. You got a bucket brigade, and you're in Altadena, but there's no water pressure. Where was the fire department?
Yeah, the fire department showed up briefly, and again, they were wonderful. All the first responders have been terrific. I can't say enough about them, top to bottom, and so our thanks go to them. But they did stop by briefly. They splashed some foam or some equivalent on the roof of this one house. I talked to them briefly, and they said they just had to go because they had so many other fires to put out. So, we would have loved it for them to stay longer, but I get it. The urgency was elsewhere as well.
Yeah, and then we've got a picture here of this cart. And was this a kind of a relay from the pool where you were able to get water onto that house by relaying it through this pump?
Yeah, so that's a great picture right there. I'm on the right-hand side, and what we did was I came up with the idea of filling up the big trash cans with water from our pool so we can get those resources closer to where the fires were. My next-door neighbor, Nick, had the idea of actually bringing in those are water gorillas, so we could have a pump system, but that's about 500 gallons, so we could get up closer to the fires. Had great thoughts on that, and then we would fill up those buckets and then take the smaller buckets from the larger trash can. So really helped us get the water and resources closer to the fires. We ended up saving that house that's in the background, which is just a minor miracle.
Wow. So actually it worked. You were able to save some of those houses there.
Yeah, correct. And what we're really proud of, and we'd like to think we had a significant impact, is no houses south of us. When the winds were blowing south, no houses south of us burned. So we really feel like we might have been a significant part of that blockade to stop the fire from continuing south.
Yeah, that's the thing, because if you stop it there, then that doesn't create embers to go to the house before, and it's like a domino effect. They just start falling down, and if you can do a break there, then that puts up a barrier. And who all got involved in this? How many people in the neighborhood come out and get involved in all of this?
It was a great story. I mean, it started off with just the immediate neighbors who knew what was going on, and then I looked around and I had a couple friends show up from La Cañada South past Monrovia, and then I looked around again, and there were people I've never seen before in my life pushing these trash bins and grabbing buckets, and at one point a truck full of I think 6 or 7 teenagers, probably local high school students, jumped out of the back of a pickup van and just grabbed buckets and started helping. And these just incredible Good Samaritans who were selfless and helping us in the community. And I wish I could know who they were to say thank you.
Well, you're saying thank you right now, and that just does so much for people to hear, that folks go by and see what's happening and they just jump in and start helping out. And that we seem to talk all the time about being so divided, and then something like this comes up and strangers are pulling up and jumping out and helping. There's more to this story, and we're going to talk about it right after the break. In the face of devastating wildfires sweeping through Los Angeles County, residents are turning their backyard pools, trash cans, anything they can get water in, into an unexpected lifeline. Altadena resident and my friend Hunt Turner did just that. And it really became an amazing story because it started out with some neighbors helping neighbors. Then pretty soon, other people started showing up. Then pretty soon, people they didn't even know are driving by and see what's going on. And it just kind of restores your faith in human nature. And Hunt, how long did you guys fight these fires before you realized, okay, we kind of got the immediate threat under control?
I think we were that night until 10:30 or 11 at night. I think what became clear is it got dark, you could start to see the burning underneath the kind of surface. And so we stayed longer and just kept dousing anything that was, red and smoldering as much as we could. You just didn't know if the winds were going to pick up. And so everyone was just an incredible effort by all parties.
Yeah, and you were saying people started coming by and bringing sandwiches and just any kind of help and support they could.
Yeah, everyone was stopping by with food, sandwiches, waters, jumping out of their cars. How can I help? And it was selfless. Everyone was humble. Everyone was willing to pick up, a bucket. I also want to do a shout out to my friends. We had 3 or 4 people going house to house, turning off the gas valves on these houses. You could see the gas valves. And I think last count we stopped 17 or turned off 17 different gas valves at these houses that had burned down in the neighborhood. So that is really important in fire prevention.
Wow, I'll say. What percentage of that area, Altadena, was lost to the fires?
Yeah, I don't know the exact percentage, but certainly there are blocks where it's 70, 80% destroyed. And these are, as you know, the area, it's just these beautiful 80, 100, 120-year-old homes that just had so much history to them. So it's really heartbreaking.
Yeah, it really is. And from what I understand, the whole area was obliterated, and it's just hard work and good grace that you were able to save what you were able to save. Are you back in your home now?
No, we are, as your previous guest mentioned, we are on evacuation. We haven't been back into our house for 5 days. And so I think that's great for the looting perspective. Obviously, we'd love to be back in our home to collect some additional belongings, but we're being patient and know it's for the greater good.
Yeah. And we're looking at some pictures of the area now, and this is going to be a long and tough dig out, and people are just displaced, and there's such a shortage now of housing in LA. There's aren't places for people to go to rent or buy, and it's a difficult thing. So you're doing some things to actually help and support the community. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely trying to get the word out to friends and family that, go and find more secure housing if you're in the evacuation zone. We also created an Eaton Fire Resource WhatsApp community, which has over 2,000 people have joined, so we can share information about inspections and FEMA and all the other things that are happening to the various situations. And we also have created a Dina Strong T-shirt that people can purchase if they'd like to show their support and wear their support.
All right. And if they purchase that, what happens to the money?
Yeah, so this is working with my kids, teenage kids that are, working on looking in charities so we can keep any of the profits that come from this to get funneled back into our local community for those who are in need. So we really want to support those who are supporting us here in this time of need.
Yeah, you bet. So if you want to show your support to the residents of Altadena and Pasadena, Hunt is selling T-shirts, and all the proceeds go to the residents. So you see the QR code on the screen right now. You can just point your camera at that and scan it. It's dinastrong.org. So you can do that and help these people that have come together as a community. And I've known Hunt for years, and I can promise you every penny of it will go to the people who need it. I'll vouch for that, put my name on it 100%. So
we'll
Hunt,
get you a shirt.
Thanks for telling this story and sharing it with everybody. It's uplifting at a time when people need to be uplifted. So I appreciate you sharing with us.
Thank you. And again, shout out to all the first responders. They're amazing. Appreciate it.
You bet. I'll see you soon, my friend.
Sounds great.
We'll be right back. Tuesday on Dr. Phil
I've
Primetime.
spent about 10 years as a prosecutor, 24 years as a defense attorney. No other DA in LA County history actually has that blend of experiences. You got to look at each case individually. The individual defendant, the crime committed. The Menendez case is on 3 different tracks.
Is there new evidence? You don't reward bad behavior.
My goal is to deter criminals from committing those crimes in the first place.
Will this continue to be a sanctuary city as far as you understand? That's Tuesday. I appreciate you watching this tonight. I don't know what all of your personal situations are. Some of your may be evacuated. You may have no home to go back to because it burned down. Even worse, they may have pulled out your insurance before your house burned down. And let's face it, your life has turned completely upside down. One day you get up and go to work and expect to come home that night, and you can't because it's all gone. I can't give you some rah-rah speech and, hey, everything's going to be okay, because you can't make sense out of a tragedy like that. And you say, well, what am I supposed to say to myself? How do I get through this? Well, what you do is you have to go into survival mode. You're not trying to overcome and get ahead. You're in survival mode right now. You put one foot in front of the other until you get by today, and then you get by tomorrow. And if you have children, if you have elderly parents or whatever, then you have a purpose, you have a meaning to get by today, to get to tomorrow. And then you hope with that survival concept that a day turns into a week, and then a week turns into a month, and you find a way to start rebuilding. And it's not going to be easy. And for a while, you may be on an adrenaline rush that makes that survival mode maybe something that you can get through. But then it can get really lonely and really difficult. But you're built for this. I believe that God doesn't put on us anything that we can't handle, even though it may seem absolutely overwhelming. And I can tell you the best possible way to fill any void, any hole, any emptiness is to give away what you need the most. As much as you're hurting, as much as you need something, reach over to the person next to you in your community or whatever and give them some comfort. I promise it will fill you up faster than anything, because what we do have is each other. We have our neighbors, we have our family. And I promise you that if you didn't lose your house, if you aren't in that situation, that any comfort, anything you can do to help really makes a difference. And you have to allow people to help you. You have to allow people to give to you mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, whatever it is. Don't be too proud or too stoic to take that help. You are in survival mode right now, and that's your challenge. That's your chore, is to survive today and get to tomorrow and then get to the next day. And if you do that, if you can do that, then you will have triumphed here. That's your task right now, is get through today and get to tomorrow and show your children that you have what it takes to do that. I want to thank all of my guests tonight. I want to thank District Attorney Nathan Hochman, Sheriff Robert Luna, and Hunt Turner. There are many organizations where you can send donations to help the citizens of Los Angeles, and we have the vetted websites on our drphil.com website. Thank you for taking the time to spend this with me. Good night. We'll see you tomorrow.